गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। वणक्कम, प्रणाम, सत श्री अकाल एंड जय हिंद। आज हम एक स्पेसिफिक एंड फोकस्ड डिस्कशन करने वाले हैं 4D strategy to counter China with General Vinod Bhatia. So let me first welcome General Vinod Bhatia. Sir, good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot once again.
Thank you, General Shankar. As always, an honor and a privilege to be on your platform and education on this. And Jai Hind to all your viewers and look forward to very interesting discussions and interactive session.
Thank you, sir. I'm very comfortable जब जनरल विनोद भाटिया यहाँ आते हैं, क्योंकि वो उनके जो आइडियाज इतने क्लियर हैं और उनके जो आइडियाज कितने प्रभावित होते हैं सबके ऊपर, एंड मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंटली ही इज वेरी क्लियर अबाउट व्हाट इज गुड फॉर इंडिया, right? And so I'm at ease, right, to let him speak what he speaks, and that's something. And of course, he's been my guru of sorts. Okay, so before we start the evening's talk and discussion, I'll just set the stage. मैं बात करता हूँ ये 4D strategy क्या है, किस लिए आया है, किस संबंध में हमने बात किया है, so that everyone is clear about this. ओके, राइट। अगर आपको याद है तो 10-15 दिन पहले हमने ग्लोबल मैट्रिक्स, द ग्लोबल पावर मैट्रिक्स के बारे में हमने बात किया, जिसमें हमने देखा कि इंडिया इज बिकमिंग पावर, बैलेंसिंग पावर इन द ग्लोब। और उसमें हमने इंडिया यूएसए इन द ग्लोबल पावर मैट्रिक्स, इंडिया चाइना इन द ग्लोबल पावर मैट्रिक्स, इंडिया रशिया, ये तीनों अलग अलग हमने बात किया था। और उसके बाद हमने साथ साथ विश्लेषण किया था, एनालिसिस ऑफ द ओवरऑल ग्लोबल पावर मैट्रिक्स किस तरीके से चला गया, एक पैनल डिस्कशन में। तब जनरल भाटिया भी शरीक थे, और उस वक्त हमें क्या लाया था कि ये जरूरी है कि वी नीड टू डिस्कस चाइना स्पेसिफिक सर्टेन इश्यूज। उसमें एक चीज जो उभर के आया है वो है 4D स्ट्रेटेजी, राइट। 4D स्ट्रेटेजी क्या है, और ये 4D स्ट्रेटेजी हमने और जनरल भाटिया ने इससे पहले जब हमने चाइना चैलेंज का सीरीज भी किया था उसमें भी जिक्र किया, पर हल्का सा बात किया। अभी भी ये पिछले सीरीज में भी हल्का सा बात किया। उस वक्त हमें ज्ञान आया कि ये चीज जो है एक पूरा सेशन देके पूरा हम डिस्कस करेंगे। उसके बाद हर एक डी के ऊपर क्या है वो हम बात कर सकते हैं। मोटे मोटे तौर पर ये 4D क्या है। 4D का मतलब, फर्स्ट, डिफेंड द LAC, सेकेंड, डिनाई स्पेस इन द नेबरहुड, डिप्लोमेसी टू बैलेंस चाइना, और नेक्स्ट लास्ट है डोमिनेट द मैरिटाइम स्पेस, राइट। ये सब अगर हम कर सकते हैं तो चाइना को हम एनकाउंटर कर सकते हैं। तो हम आज एक एक डी को थोड़ा, we'll spend time on each of this D and see what constitutes that D and what constitutes that D to make it counter China. So I'd request you to first start with the LAC. How do you define the LAC and what constitutes defending the LAC? And when we say defend the LAC, what do we mean? All yours, sir.
Thank you, General Shankar. मैं अगर 1 मिनट पहले लूं उससे तो मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि हमारा मुद्दा क्या है, व्हाट्स द एम। दो मुद्दे एज इंडिया। एक तो डिफीट चाइनाज स्ट्रेटेजिक एम ऑफ कंटेनिंग इंडिया। चाइना का जो स्ट्रेटेजिक एम है कि इंडिया को कंटेन करिए, और वो स्ट्रेटेजिक एम है चाइना का। तो दैट इज हाउ व्हेन यू सेड deny space in the neighborhood is a very important strategy to defeat China's strategic intent of containing India. और दूसरा हमारा जो चाइना का मुद्दा है वो बहुत जरूरी है to deter China's aggressive behavior along the line of action control. क्योंकि चाइना क्या करता है, देखिए दो मुद्दे। एक तो स्ट्रिंग ऑफ पर्ल्स हो गया, स्ट्रिंग ऑफ पर्ल्स में इसने हमको कंटेन कर लिया, कोशिश कर रहा है। और दूसरा सलामी स्लाइसिंग कर रहा है LAC पे। अभी उसको डिफीट कैसे करना है, उसको डेटर कैसे करना है, ये आपने जो 4D स्ट्रेटेजी हमने मिलके जो बनाई थी पिछली बारी, तो ये बहुत जरूरी हिस्सा है। और पहली जो स्ट्रेटेजी है और जो बेसिक स्ट्रेटेजी है डिफेंड द एलएसी, उसके बिना कुछ नहीं हो सकता। अगर आप एलएसी कमजोर हैं तो चाइना आपको बहुत तंग करेगा, ठीक है ना। तो हाउ डू यू डिफेंड द एलएसी, दैट इज द मेन थिंग। नाउ व्हेन यू डिफेंड द एलएसी, एक चीज हमें ध्यान रखनी चाहिए, चाइना रिस्पेक्ट स्ट्रेंथ एंड वी हैव टू स्ट्रांग इन द एलएसी। तो पिछले 3 साल, 2 महीने होने को आए, अभी 3 महीने को आए बल्कि, अगर हम देखा जाए तो चाइना का जो 4 मई 2020 का जो फॉरवर्ड डिप्लॉयमेंट है एलएसी के ऊपर, तो 3 साल से ऊपर हो गए हैं अभी। और उसने जो वहां पर फॉरवर्ड डिप्लॉयमेंट करी, उसमें से हमने 2 जगह को छोड़ के बाकी से रिजॉल्व हो गया। एक देपसंग रह गया और एक नीचे देमचौक में सीएनजी, ठीक है। तो चाडन नाला मतलब वो रह गया। तो उसको देखते हुए ये क्या हुआ है, उसको मैं थोड़ा सा कंटेक्स्ट में डालना चाहूंगा। तो उसको कैसे करेंगे? पहली बात तो एलएसी पे हमने स्ट्रेटजी रिवैल्यूएशन ऑलरेडी कर दिया, बहुत सारी चीजें हमने कर दी ऑलरेडी। ये जो स्ट्रेटजी है इसको इवॉल्व होते थोड़ा सा टाइम लगा, लेकिन हमने एक स्ट्रेटेजिक रिजॉल्व दिखाया और हमने स्ट्रेटेजिक रिबैलेंसिंग करी। हमारी फौज बहुत काबिल फौज है। हमारे जो हाई एल्टीट्यूड वॉरफेयर में आई थिंक इंडिया की जो आर्मी है मोस्ट कम्बैट रिच बैटल हार्ड आर्मी है। चाहे कारगिल ले लीजिए, चाहे एलएसी ले लीजिए, चाहे एलसी ले लीजिए, हमने ओवर द इयर्स बड़ा एक्सपीरियंस हमारे में। तो हमें उसमें क्या करना चाहिए? आई थिंक ये पहली चीज हमको करनी चाहिए और कर रहे हैं। ये नहीं जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ ये हम हो रहा है, अभी किस स्पीड में हो रहा है, किस स्पेस में हो रहा है, टाइम एंड स्पेस में, वो हमें देखना पड़ेगा। जो उसमें 3 आवर्स, 3 आवर्स क्या होते हैं? देखिए, जो लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल है लगभग 3488 किलोमीटर की है और हाइटीट्यूड टेरेन्स है, एवरेज हाइट है 4800 मीटर, यानी 17,000 फीट से ऊपर। तो आप हर एक इंच ऑफ लैंड को आप नहीं वहां डिफेंड कर सकते, उसको डिप्लॉय नहीं कर सकते, डिफेंड कर सकते, डिप्लॉय नहीं कर सकते। तो हमको 3 आवर्स देखने पड़ेंगे। 3 आवर्स क्या है? सबसे पहले हमको चाहिए रोड, रोड चाहिए। दूसरा चाहिए हमको रेडार्स, रेडार मतलब आईएसआर, इंटेलिजेंस सर्वेलेंस रेडार्स। और तीसरा मुझे रिजर्व, ठीक है। तो उसको चाइना को हम उसको प्रियम्प्ट करना पड़ेगा हमको, जैसे वो पहले 2020 में आ गया था। तो उसको प्रियम्प्ट करने के लिए हमको रोड चाहिए, सर्वेलेंस चाहिए, रडार चाहिए, आईएसआर चाहिए और हमको चाहिए रिजर्व्स, ठीक है। अभी रोड्स की जो मेजर मुद्दा है हमारे जो साइड पे जो एलएसी है, और मैं 2 मिनट लूंगा इस पर जनशंकर, अगर आप मुझे
हाँ
अनुमति दें।
प्लीज सर, प्लीज, बहुत टाइम है हमारे पास।
हमारे देखिए, आप काराकोरम से किबुतो तक हमारी एलएसी है, ठीक है। काराकोरम ईस्टर्न लद्दाख में, डीबीओ के नॉर्थ पे अबाउट 8 to 10 किलोमीटर नॉर्थ ऑफ डीबीओ, और किबुतो होगा बिल्कुल ईस्टर्न, जो हमारा
टिप में
ईस्ट है, सबसे ईस्ट में, जो लगता है म्यांमार, चाइना और इंडिया का जो जंक्शन है वहां पर। तो हमारे हर एक जगह आप देखिए टेरेन फ्रैक्चर्ड सेक्टर्स हैं। टेरेन फ्रैक्चर्ड सेक्टर का मतलब होता है कि एक जो सेक्टर है दूसरे सेक्टर से कॉम्प्लीमेंटेरिटी नहीं है उसमें। और अगर आपको अगर एक जगह जाना है तो आपको वापस आकर दूसरी जगह जाना पड़ेगा। आप अरुणाचल में 5 वैलीज ले लीजिए, 1143 किलोमीटर की जो हमारा लाइन ऑफ एक्शन कंट्रोल है। आप उसके बाद सिक्किम ले लीजिए, 220 किलोमीटर सिक्किम का हमारा लाइन ऑफ एक्शन कंट्रोल है, आईबी है, आईबी सेक्टर है वो। उसमें नॉर्थ सिक्किम, नॉर्थ ईस्ट सिक्किम, वेस्ट सिक्किम, ईस्ट सिक्किम, मतलब ये सब बिल्कुल अलग अलग सेक्टर हो जाते हैं। वैसे अगर आप उत्तराखंड और हिमाचल ले लीजिए तो वैसे ही आपका जोशीमठ सेक्टर, हर्षल सेक्टर, धारचूला सेक्टर, और हिमाचल में अपना शुगर सेक्टर, समदो समदो का एरिया, कू का एरिया, वो अलग हो जाता है। उसमें भी सांगला वैली अलग हो जाता है और समदो अलग हो जाता है। वैसे ईस्टर्न लद्दाख में जाता है। तो इसलिए रोड्स बहुत जरूरी है और रोड्स बन रही हैं। लेकिन ये काफी प्लान्स थे हमारे, और हमें चाइना को थैंक यू बोलना चाहिए कि हमने इतने रोड्स पे भी ध्यान दिया है। रेलवे बन रहे हैं, एयरफील्ड आगे मूव कर रहे हैं, तो ये रोड्स बन रही हैं। आईएसआर आ गया है और रिजर्व हमने क्रिएट कर दिए हैं। तो ये 3 आर जो है ये बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट है। तो ये तो पहली चीज 3 आर्स के ऊपर। और उसके अलावा हमको चाहिए यहाँ पर एक फिलॉसफी, ऑपरेशन फिलॉसफी। और वो ऑपरेशन फिलॉसफी हमारी नो ब्लिंकिंग, नो ब्रिंक मशीन, ठीक है। अब चाइना से अभी हमने जो है कमजोरी नहीं दिखानी है, लेकिन हमने एस्केलेट भी नहीं करना है अभी, क्योंकि हमको टाइम चाहिए और बिल्डअप करने के लिए। हमें थोड़ा प्रैग्मेटिक होना पड़ेगा। चाइना का बिल्डअप करने में टाइम चाहिए, अभी 3 साल हुए हैं। और रोड्स बहुत खराब हैं, हमारा एरिया बहुत खराब है। उनका भी एरिया, उनका भी कमजोरी है, ये तो उनकी कमजोरी नहीं है, उनकी कमजोरी है। उनका मेन लैंड जो है वो 3,000 किलोमीटर दूर है, और वो तिब्बत के लोग हैं, उनके साथ नहीं है। हमारी एडवांटेज है कि हमारे लोग, चाहे वो लद्दाखी हो, चाहे वो हिमाचली हो, चाहे वो उत्तराखंड में हो, चाहे सिक्किम में हो, चाहे अरुणाचल में हो, हमारे लोग हमारे साथ हैं। और बिना लोगों के जो है फौज वहां काम नहीं कर सकती है। फौज और लोग मिलकर वहां काम करते हैं। हाइब्रिड एरिया, आप तो वहाँ एलएसी में रह चुके हो, तो वही वही हमें हम वो हमारी देखभाल करते हैं, उनकी देखभाल मिलकर काम करते हैं। एक एक यूनिटी होती है हमारे, तो जो चाइना में नहीं है। तो ये बहुत जरूरी है। अब इसको कैसे करा जाएगा? कहना तो बड़ा आसान है कि ये होना चाहिए, कैसे करना चाहिए? हमको एक इंटीग्रेटेड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट प्लान चाहिए। अभी हमारे पास 60 प्लस सेंचुरीज हैं, हम उस सेंचुरी में रोड नहीं बना सकते। कोर्ट रूलिंग्स हैं, ये लैंड एक्ट 2014 का, उसको ट्वीट करना पड़ेगा। और इंटीग्रेट मतलब एक एम्पावर्ड बॉडी चाहिए हमको, जिसमें सब हो, सब स्टेक होल्डर्स हो उसमें, और मिनिस्ट्रीज हो, ये हो, और वो डिसीजन जब लेगा, समथिंग लाइक सबसेट ऑफ सीएसडी जिसको कहते हैं, चाइना स्टडी ग्रुप का, और वो बोलेंगे ये होना चाहिए, उसके बाद होना चाहिए, उसको फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट भी मिलना चाहिए, उसको प्लेन मिलना चाहिए। एक हमारा बहुत अच्छा मॉडल है, जो हमारा मॉडल है डीएमआरसी मॉडल, जो दिल्ली मेट्रो रेल कॉर्पोरेशन का मॉडल है। आपने कोर्ट जाना, कोर्ट जाइए, लेकिन आप काम नहीं रोक सकते, वो काम चलता रहेगा। ठीक है ना?
हाँ, ये बात इंपॉर्टेंट है कि काम नहीं होना, रुकना नहीं चाहिए।
आपने कोर्ट जाना, कोर्ट जाइए, जो कंपनसेशन ले कंपनसेशन होती
जो
रहेगी, वो चलता रहेगा, लेकिन काम नहीं रुकता डीएमआरसी। तो वो मॉडल हमको एलईसी में लगाना पड़ेगा, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इंटीग्रेटेड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट मॉडल। ये काम नहीं रोक सकते आप। अगर हमारी रोड बननी है, टनल बननी है, ब्रिज बनने हैं, लैंड एक्वायर करनी है, डिफेंस वर्क्स बनने हैं, एमिनेशन टाउन बनने हैं, लॉजिस्टिक्स रोड्स बनने हैं, जो भी बनना है वो बनता रहेगा। ठीक है ना? तो ये है, उसमें भी क्या होगा, जो इंटीग्रेट करना पड़ेगा, जो नेशनल हाईवे अथॉरिटी है हमारी, उसको मेन रोड बनानी पड़ेगी, उसका बीआरओ को फीडर रोड बनानी पड़ेगी, और ऑपवर्क्स के थ्रू, जो आर्मी के ऑपवर्क्स हैं, उससे हमको लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी देनी पड़ेगी, तब जाके रोड बनेगा। वैसे एयरफील्ड्स हैं, हमारे एविएशन बेसिस हैं, हमारी गन पोजीशन है, ऐसी पहाड़ है, गन पोजीशन नहीं मिलती। आप तो मतलब डीजीआरटी रह चुके हैं, आप तो आपने अपनी आरटी डिवीजन भी, आरटी ब्रिगेड भी वहीं कमांड करी है, तो गन पोजीशन नहीं मिलती, तो वो भी बनानी पड़ेगी लॉजिस्टिक रोड। तो बहुत सारा काम करने को है, मैं ये नहीं कहता कि नहीं हो रहा है। तो ये और हमने वाइब्रेंट विलेज प्रोजेक्ट शुरू किया है, 600 प्लस विलेजेस आइडेंटिफाई करें ताकि लोग वहां पर रहें, जो हमारे वो आइज एंड ईयर्स हमारे लोग हैं वो। लेकिन हमने जो उसको बजटिंग करी है बहुत कम है वो। हमको अट्रैक्टिव करना पड़ेगा, उनको हेल्थ देनी पड़ेगी, हेल्थ फैसिलिटीज देनी पड़ेगी, उनको एजुकेशन देनी पड़ेगी, टूरिज्म देनी पड़ेगी। अभी मोस्ट सारी जगह इनर लाइन परमिट है, हमारा एरिया इनर लाइन परमिट क्यों होना चाहिए? कोई भी जा सकता है वहां पर। ये मेरा विचार है, कोई एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव लीगल प्रॉब्लम हो मुझे पता नहीं है, होनी तो नहीं चाहिए लीगल प्रॉब्लम्स कोई। तो इनर लाइन परमिट को खत्म करिए, एनकरेज टूरिज्म इन द फॉरवर्ड एरिया। तो हमारे अभी देखिए सियाचिन में हमारे टूरिज्म सियाचिन में हमारे, हम अभी बच्चों को ले आ रहे हैं, टूरिस्ट को ले आ रहे हैं, सिविल को ले आ रहे हैं। तो वी शुड टेक दिस। दीज आर सम ऑफ द थिंग्स ऑन द फर्स्ट बुलेट व्हिच आई विल स्टॉप आउट हियर। आप उसको ऐड करिए प्लीज।
राइट सर, जो आपने बोला था, whatever you have said, let me put it in context and then we'll go. We spoke of 3 R's: roads, radars, ISR, right, and reserves. I think we've maintained a lot of reserves. We've built up a lot of reserves in terms of manpower, and we have no problem. But I think we need to build up more of reserves in terms of our logistic stamina, and especially in the context of the war which is happening in Ukraine. So we need a little more logistic stamina. हमें क्षमता होना चाहिए कि एक लंबे लड़ाई लड़ना चाहिए, लड़ने की क्षमता होना चाहिए। और वो अगर जब हम वो क्षमता बनाएंगे तो इट विल बिकम अ डिटरेंट ऑन चाइना ऑटोमेटिकली, राइट? ओके, नेक्स्ट चीज आपने बताया कि इंटीग्रेटेड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट प्लान based on DMRC model. I think this is a very important thing because unless we have a plan which doesn't stop, क्योंकि आजकल जो प्लान जितने भी हैं वो चलता रुकता टाइप है, तो we should have a plan which we cannot stop and no one can stop, and right, and be adequately funded. ये बात सही है कि 3 साल पहले जो फंडिंग और जो डेवलपमेंट था, अगर आप last 3 years के साथ and before that up to, if you compare, it is miles ahead. We have started going, much ahead. But I feel that most importantly, it is the people who make this entire connectivity. So what you said, tourism, is very important. Increasing the health facilities is important. Increasing the education facilities is important. Increasing the employment opportunities for people in these border areas is important. So that they don't migrate out. अगर आप देखेंगे तो नॉर्थ ईस्ट के लोग बहुत लोग बाहर आके काम करते हैं. वो उसकी जरूरत नहीं होना चाहिए. उसमें थोड़ा इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन की काम जरूरत होना चाहिए. In consistent with the ecological system out there, so that the stake of the people in that land increases. Today, one of the reasons, आप उस side देखिए, Tibet and Tibetans don't have a stake in their lands. And that is why, and of course, there are other reasons also. That is why China has always a question mark on the Tibetans. And the Tibetans don't, identify with the development which China is doing. हालांकि China ने बहुत development किया हमारे मुकाबले में. So we need to have development consistent with the people where people have a stake. Because where people have a stake, there will be communication. Where communication goes, automatically things will start doing up. And of course, the military aspects, I have no doubt that we will go. The point which I also would like to say is that we need to not only build up all this, we need to have a modernization plan also over and above what you said, so that we input modern technologies which help us fight a modern day war, because China has modernized a lot of things in that area. You'll agree with me. And we also have to use a lot of dual use infrastructure, or entire infrastructure orientation has to be dual use. This is, I thought I'll add a few things to what you have already said. And in case if you want to add anything more, we could add. Otherwise, we'll go to the next point.
बिल्कुल ठीक, बिल्कुल. This is a very important one. जैसे 2-4 मिनट बोली, जो ड्यूल यूज इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है उसको इंटीग्रेट करना पड़ेगा. जो सिविलियन और जो मिलिट्री इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को करना पड़ेगा. जैसे हमारे हॉस्पिटल्स हैं, डॉक्टर्स हैं, हमारे जो वर्कशॉप्स हैं रास्ते में, हमारे जो ट्रांसपोर्ट सिस्टम्स हैं, हमारी जो उसमें 3 चीजें आती हैं. स्ट्रेटेजिक मोबिलिटी हमारे पास है, हमारी टैक्टिकल मोबिलिटी अभी भी थोड़ी कम है, और बैटलफील्ड मोबिलिटी और उससे कम है. उसको जोड़ देना पड़ेगा. हमको लाइट टैंक्स चाहिए, हमको ऑल टेरेन व्हीकल चाहिए, हमको इंजीनियरिटी चाहिए, न्यू मेथड्स. हम जो मैं वहां एलसी था, एलएसी पे हम माउंटेन बाइक यूज करते थे. माउंटेन बाइक है, उस पर सामान डाल दिया, 50, 60, 70 किलो डाल दिया, और जहां पर चल रहे नहीं चला तो उसको धक्का मार के ले जाए. ठीक है ना. तो ये चीजें अभी सबको मतलब अपना अपना इंजीनियरिटी तो हमारी है ही, हमारे तो जिसको कहते हैं हम जुगाड़ कहते हैं, हम तो एक्सपर्ट हैं जुगाड़ में. तो वो चल रहा है, लेकिन उसको और बढ़ाना पड़ेगा. और उसमें हम ये नहीं कहूँगा सब ठीक ठाक है, उसमें प्रॉब्लम्स है हमारी. ठीक है, हमको देखना पड़ेगा. इतने जो हमने जो डिप्लॉयमेंट करी है उसको सस्टेन कैसे करना है, ये भी देखना पड़ेगा हमको. इट इज नॉट इजी टू सस्टेन. आई हैव टू डिप्लॉयमेंट 17,000 फीट पे.
यस, देयर नो डाउट.
हमारे मेडिकल इश्यूज बहुत होते हैं वहां पर. ठीक है, तो उसको जो चाहिए सबको, जैसे आपने बोला सिविल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इंटीग्रेट करिए. Make the people feel part of the solution.
Yes. And not only that, sir, not only that, unless you make people part of the solution, and that infrastructure is for the people, and you increase the economy of that area. And when you increase the economy of that area, you automatically start funding yourself. Then your funding problems also.
मैं आपको ओपन में एक चीज बताऊं. मैं सिक्किम में कोर कमांडर था, तो डोकाला तक रोड नहीं थी. तो सबने बोला ये रोड नहीं है. मैं कहा रोड बना. तो कहते सर फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट ले. मैं तो रोड बनाना शुरू कर दो, जब वो आएंगे उसका लेट देम डिस्ट्रॉय द रोड. रोड डिस्ट्रॉय करना आसान थोड़ी होता है. तो हमने रोड बनानी शुरू कर दी. ये 2011 की बात कर रहा हूँ. और जब 2017 में जब डोकलम करा, जब हुआ, तो हमारे रोड थे डोकाला तक.
रोड थे, या
और रोड नहीं होती तो जैसा बोले लॉजिस्टिक कैसे सस्टेन कर ले. सबको पीठ को उठा के आसान नहीं है, बहुत मुश्किल है.
we couldn't have this thing. So I think that is right. Right.
लाइट
आपने
टाइम
ला-
हमको मिनिशंस चाहिए, आप एक्सपर्ट है, आप उसके बारे में बोलना
अरे
चाहेंगे कुछ?
we need lot of
आप
ammunition.
और ड्रोन्स हैं, बहुत
Yeah,
सारी
yeah.
चीजें देखनी पड़ेंगी।
We need. So ये चीजें हैं जो LAC को डिफेंड करने के लिए we need. You need modernized equipment, you need modernized weapon systems, ammunition, reserves, and most importantly, infrastructure. And infrastructure which pays itself and which is integrated and cannot be stopped. And last but not the least, people who will defend the infrastructure. Jab tak people don't feel part of the whole game, it will not this thing. And of course, my personal belief, sir, is people whom I've interacted with all along the LAC, because I've had tenures almost along the entire LAC at some point of time or the other. People are with India and they're very scared of the Chinese. They don't want to go the other side under any conditions. अगर थोड़ा क्षमता देंगे, the people will defend us, and instead of we defending the people. And the day that people start defending us and feel rooted in that area, with the LAC is absolutely sealed, and China cannot even take 1 inch out there. So we'll leave this at this. But you made one important point. The important point you made is there's a string of pearls. Our LAC is segregated. It is broken with Nepal, Bhutan, in the end Myanmar, and in the bottom Bangladesh. So we have to have, and we know इस इलाके में China has made ingress, and which is not there in this map. नीचे श्रीलंका में भी आके घुस बैठा है, और कभी कभी हमें ये रिपोर्ट भी मिलता है ये कोको आइलैंड जो म्यांमार के लास्ट में है वो उन्होंने कुछ बना लिया, कुछ लोग बोलते हैं कि सबमरीन बेस भी बना लिया. सो इस लिहाज से अगर हम देखेंगे तो द डिनायल ऑफ स्पेस, स्ट्रेटेजिक स्पेस इन द नेबरहुड is important. I think उसके ऊपर आप थोड़ा बात करेंगे तो that's the second D. We've finished defending. We'll now talk of denial of the space in the neighborhood. आप बात कीजिए.
चाइना का जो है वो दूर की सोचता है, थिंग्स लॉन्ग, थिंग्स डीप, लेकिन गलतियां भी बहुत करते हैं वो. दे डोंट अंडरस्टैंड इंडिया, वी डोंट अंडरस्टैंड चाइना. ये कॉमन फैक्टर है और समझना बहुत जरूरी है. संजू ने भी बोला था, हम सब जानते हैं, नो योर एनिमी नो योर. अगर आप नेबरहुड को देखें, उसने काफी इन्वेस्ट कर रखा है नेबरहुड में, सिंगापुर में, लेकिन एक जगह वो चूक गया है वहां पर कि ट्रस्ट नहीं है. ही हैज दैट द ग्रेट डेट डिप्लोमेसी, bribery, blackmail of the leaders. That's a smart power which is employing out there. उसकी डेट डिप्लोमेसी होगी, उसका वुल्फ वॉरेंट डेट ट्रैप हो गया, वुल्फ वॉरेंट डिप्लोमेसी हो गई, और ब्राइबरी एंड ब्लैकमेल ऑफ लीडरशिप करता है.
एक चीज मैं I just want to highlight. The Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Ranil Wickremesinghe, is to come to India. And just one day before he comes to India, there's a article out in Global Times and in South China Morning Post which says Sri Lanka should take care; it should not get into the Indian, circle, and it should not get, they should not compromise their security. And वो last में ये भी है, they should remember that they have a whole lot of debt on us. वो indirectly वो coercion करना शुरू कर देते हैं. Just to highlight what you're saying, so they do this.
वो करते हैं, लेकिन श्रीलंका को यही तो पता है जब मुसीबत के समय इंडिया काम आया ना. We have Sagar. Prime Minister has given a vision of Sagar, security and growth of all in the region. अगर आप देखें पिछले 3 हफ्ते में किंग ऑफ भूटान आए यहाँ पर, प्राइम मिनिस्टर नेपाल आए, फॉरेन मिनिस्टर मालदीव्स आए, और अभी श्रीलंका वाले आ रहे हैं. तो वी आर नॉट डूइंग बैडली.
No, we are not doing badly at all. इसमें तो
we are doing well, but we need to do more and more. We need to do it more and more. It is not our space, it is denied space. Okay? And we have to invest in the people. We have to invest in dispensation. और आप लोगों को इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, वो हमेशा आपके साथ रहेंगे. एंड जो मर्जी बोल लीजिए, पीपल लुक एट अस, आवर नेबरहुड लुक्स एट अस एज अ बिग कंट्री. तो बिग कंट्री से सभी थोड़ा सा तो हमेशा से होता है। और अगर हम जाके प्रोमिसेस करते हैं, वी हैव टू फुलफिल दोस प्रोमिसेस, एंड दे शुड पीपल फ्रेंडली प्रोमिसेस। लेकिन हम अफगानिस्तान में किया, आई थिंक अफगानिस्तान वी डिड अ वंडरफुल जॉब आउट
Wonderful job. Yes, there's no
देयर।
doubt about it.
We should give up, we should acknowledge what we have done out there in Afghanistan. And
So
this is
what, if I may interrupt you, actually you made two, three important points जो मैं highlight करना चाहता हूँ. What I want to highlight, you said we need to invest in the people in our surrounding area. We need to invest in that country in terms of their democracies, whatever it is, their form of government, and their systems. You know, we at times we get the feeling that no, that country is small, we should ignore it, we should never ignore it. And so we need to invest in the importance of that country, and win them over and look towards us. Unless they start looking towards us, and after all we have connect with all of them, and all our neighbors are connected with each other only through India. They are not connected to each other through China. So the point which you made is very important, that you have to invest in the people, and you have to invest in their system, and you have to invest in their culture. So sorry for disturbing you. Please go ahead.
कि अगर आप हिस्टोरिकली देखें, इंडियन इंडिया इज द ओनली नेशन व्हिच सेंड इट्स मिलिट्री टू हेल्प पीपल, वेदर एड टू सिविल अथॉरिटीज, एचएडीआर, नेपाल था, बांग्लादेश था, श्रीलंका था, मॉलडीव में पानी पहुंचाया हमने। मॉलडीव में जब उनकी गवर्नमेंट में जब कू हुआ, हमने जाके वहां पर मॉलडीव में रेस्क्यू करा प्रेसिडेंट को, जो बाकी कंट्रीज ने मना कर दिया करने से। आई वाज पार्ट ऑफ दैट, ऑफ कैक्टस मॉलडीव 1988 3 नवंबर। तो और वी आर द ओनली कंट्री व्हिच गोज इन एंड कम्स आउट। ठीक है, हम मॉलडीव गए, अपना काम किया, वापस आ गए, श्रीलंका गए, अकॉर्ड के उस पे इनविटेशन था प्रेसिडेंट को, वापस आ गए। बाकी कंट्रीज जो है, चाइना वापस नहीं चाहता, वो आके वहां पर जैसे सीपीईसी में कर रखा है, पाकिस्तान में कर रखा है, बाकी जगह वो आके वो उसको अपनी बेस बना लेता है। हमन टोटा में कर रखा है, ठीक है, ग्वादर में कर रखा है। तो ये हमारे एडवांटेज है, हमको उस एडवांटेज को एक्सप्लॉइट करना चाहिए। ट्रस्ट ऑफ द पीपल इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, ट्रस्ट ऑफ द नेशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। अभी नेपाल में जब 2015 में जब अर्थक्वेक आया था, वी वर द फर्स्ट रिस्पॉन्डर्स।
Yes, there's no doubt.
Bangladesh, we helped Bangladesh in the liberation war, and
Yeah.
we came out. We came out 14 days when we were out. We never stayed there.
Yeah.
तो हमको आइडियोलॉजी में बैठना चाहिए, वो कंट्री उसका कंट्री है, या वो जो उनकी गवर्नमेंट है उनकी गवर्नमेंट है, एंड बट वी शुड बी सीन एज अ हेल्पफुल एंड इन्वेस्ट इन द पीपल, इन्वेस्ट इन द इकोनॉमी ऑफ द पीपल, इन्वेस्ट इन एम्प्लॉयमेंट ऑफ द पीपल। ठीक है, हमारे कई खामियां भी हैं हमारे में ओवर द इयर्स। मैं ये नहीं कहता कि सभी टिकटी पू है, नहीं है। we have also to look inwards and improve that, but denying space in the neighborhood is very very important. And I would not say neighborhood, I go to the extended neighborhood. We are a big country, region. Why not ASEAN? Why
Yes.
not West Asia? Go beyond. Why not the Central Asian republics? Why should I confine myself to only my 7 neighbors?
7, yes, I agree with you.
I have to go. Maritime neighbors हैं हमारे, we share maritime boundary with Thailand, with Indonesia. Why not them? West Asia is very important to us. Sea are very important to us. So we'll have to invest in neighborhood, extended neighborhood also. And today we are the flavor. Look at us, we are the flavor.
Yes, there's no doubt.
Our Prime Minister US visit was a landmark visit. France visit was a landmark visit. We are the chair of the G20. We are the chair of the SCO. We have the BIMSTEC going. We have the corridors going. Slow and steady wins the race. हम slow and steady चल रहे हैं. That is what China understands. That मैं actually बताऊँ, I think China ने ना एक Himalayan blunder किया. I call it China's Himalayan blunder. May 2020 में it is China's Himalayan blunder. China will need India more and more to counter US. We were having an excellent relationship, a growing relationship with China. Our people had forgotten 1962. गलवान के बाद हमारे जो 60 million youth है, अभी totally anti China हो गया, rightly so. ठीक है, जो हिमालयन ब्लंडर किया है, China has pushed us away from China. Whereas China, as you rightly said at the beginning, India is the balancing power. China will need us if it has to challenge the US. It can't do it alone. तो ये चाइना का हिमालयन ब्लंडर है, which China will have to pay.
In fact, जो आप बोल रहे हो it's there in today's one opinion piece in South China Morning Post. It says China
लास्ट टाइम मैंने आपके शो में मैंने महीना पहले भी एनवायरमेंटल
Yeah, that unless China is
चाइना मेरे
able
ख्याल
to
से
get in,
आपके शो को सुनता तो नहीं है.
unless China gets India on its side and breaks the cord, it cannot move ahead. But let me put things in perspective. You said a lot of things. If you look at the near neighborhood, we've done well in Nepal. You know, especially with the way things are going in Nepal, there's a government which we are helping out. And I think this business of this Agnivir and Agnipath also is going to come to a closure in some manner. We've held Bhutan on our side, despite the fact that China has been trying to make inroads into Bhutan and force a solution on it. I think we've held their back and they're okay. Today, Bangladesh is not completely towards China, which it was, say, maybe about 5, 6 years back. And in fact, they have already denied space for a port, which Japanese have been given, Sonadia में. And they're balanced. They know कि किस side उनका दाल गल रहा है. Even Myanmar, to an extent, has not swung completely towards China. They've kept their options open. Sri Lanka is realizing the value of having invested too many things in the Chinese basket. Afghanistan also. Now, in all this, the near neighborhood is in, I think, the that string of pearls जो हम सोचते थे उसके ऊपर उसके बारे में हम डरते थे वो थोड़ा डिले हो गए. दिस माय व्यू. आपने बोला द फार नेबरहुड में हमने ये मिडल ईस्ट और वेस्ट एशिया में I2UT डील किया. ईरान के साथ हमारे संबंध अच्छे हैं और एशियन के साथ हमारे संबंध अच्छे हो रहे हैं. इनफैक्ट एशियन इज कमिंग टुवर्ड्स अस टू इंक्रीज. हमारे डिफेंस डील्स अच्छे हो गए हैं वियतनाम के साथ, इंडोनेशिया के साथ और फिलीपींस के साथ. सो इवन इन आवर फार नेबरहुड वी आर डूइंग वेल. यहाँ तक we have good connect with the Central Asian republics also. And very importantly, आपने ये जो बोला, we head the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, we head the G20 this year, right? And next month ये जो BRICS भी आने वाला है, and our presence here has put a stop on China. Actually, you denied a lot of space जो हम बोल रहे हैं in the neighborhood by just stopping China. For example, अभी जो Shanghai Corporation SCO में हमने बोल दिया कि BRA के बारे में कुछ लिखा नहीं जाएगा. Or whatever the Chinese phrases on their global development initiative and civilization initiative and all, they were not allowed to come in the last final statement of the SCO. इसके ऊपर भी विचार हुआ है और आलोचना हुआ है इन चाइना इंडिया हैज प्लेड द स्पॉइलिंग हैंड इन द SCO and they are fearing the same thing in the BRICS also. And if China, the UN cannot go ahead to a large extent, it is because of India, right? And not only that, in all this we've got Iran on our side and at times even Brazil on our side to put a stop on China. So अगर आप 3 लेवल में देखिए, immediate neighborhood helping them out, the far neighborhood and having influence there, and in the larger context of global thing where your आपका बोलबाला बढ़ रहा है और चाइना जो इकोनॉमिकली आजकल थोड़ा हाल इनका थोड़ा कस्ता है, वो people are wavering. So I think in this thing we have come of age, we have turned a corner. हालांकि ये बात सही है कि वी आर नॉट प्रोबेबली एट कंप्लीटली एबल टू डिनाई द स्पेस, नॉर डू आई थिंक इट विल बी फीजिबल. बट हमें बात ये देखना पड़ेगा कि व्हाट इज द बैलेंस वी स्ट्राइक so that all these neighbors are with us when it comes to a crunch. I mean, that balance, where do you see it happening? How do you feel that you could?
आपने बहुत अच्छा बोला है, but there's a word of caution also. It is okay to give yourself pat for what is happening, but हमको ये समझना पड़ेगा this has to be
Yeah,
long
that's
term.
what I wanted you to bring out, sir.
It has to be a long term investment. हमारे में खामियां हैं, कमजोरियां हैं. Your Act East policy is premised on a land bridge through Manipur.
And Manipur is in problems.
You command a brigade there. It's a problem today, right? Look at the space which now China has got in Afghanistan. Look at the space with China, the deal which is done through with Iran and Saudi Arabia. Okay, China and Pakistan. चाइना के स्टडी सेंटर्स जो हैं साउथ नेपाल में, चाइना स्टडी सेंटर्स जो हैं साउथ नेपाल में, आई थिंक they were 8 of them last found, maybe more, maybe less, but they are there. The railway line which come to Nepal. तो हमको ये we have to aware of all these things and keep repeating it.
Yeah.
इसलिए सबको पता है, लेकिन उसको रिपीट करना पड़ेगा बार बार, तभी हम उसको ठीक तरह से उसको असेस कर सकेंगे। और जो अपने नेबर के प्रॉमिस करते हैं, हम उसको फ्रक्टिफाई करना पड़ेगा, उसको लोगों को दिखना चाहिए, विजुअल्स होने
And
चाहिए।
yeah, and don't you think that our integrated infrastructure development plan, which we are developing for our own LAC, and
Exactly.
this has a connect.
Absolutely.
See, जब तक these people also don't feel rooted to what they do. देखिए एक example देता हूँ आपको. The Nepalese, a lot of Nepalese come to India for employment. ऑफ कोर्स ये तो है कि हम हर साल 1,000-1,500 लोग अपना आर्मी में लेते हैं एंड वी हैव 10 लाख पेंशनर्स, ये तो सबको पता है, बट इससे ज्यादा लोग यहाँ आते हैं या रहते हैं। मैं आपको उदाहरण के तौर पर ये बार बार बताता रहता हूँ, जब व्हेन आई सी अराउंड एंड वी आर आई एम इन साउथ, डीप डाउन साउथ, आई सी अ लॉट ऑफ नेपालीज हु कम हियर, who have always virtually settled here. They speak Tamil. They speak Tamil fluently, and they've got their children being educated here. Right? Now, that is people to people contact. How do you maximize this? How do you make them feel part of our society? I mean, they do feel, but how do you make it feel part of their society at the government level? That the government starts looking. I've just taken this, and the same thing can be applied for anyone else. अगर हम ये करेंगे तो अच्छे होंगे। दूसरी बात, I'll give a opposite example. What we should not do. What we should not do is what we did in Sri Lanka. When we went into Sri Lanka as part of the IPKF, where one part of the government didn't know what the other part of the government was doing, at times we were doing things opposite to each other. तो जो अंदरूनी शक्ति है, that is important. The third thing which you actually have said, a state like Manipur. We cannot afford to have problems in Manipur, and we cannot afford to have problems in Manipur lingering on for one. आज मैंने एक न्यूज देखा कि वहाँ कुछ नागा वुमन के साथ कुछ हो गया. I think that one Naga lady has been shot dead or something like that. Now, if in Manipur even the Nagas come into the problem, then we are having a major problem.
I hope.
Right? So we cannot have a border state as significant as that, in problems. So I think these three things are important when we deal with the neighbors.
China will exploit that situation.
Yes,
It has
completely.
the capability to exploit it. अगर नहीं करा तो अलग बात है, कर सकता है।
कर सकता है वो, शायद अगर ये नहीं कर रहा है इसीलिए क्योंकि we can also do repay the same thing and probably more in Tibet and Xinjiang and all that. And one point which I would like,
उससे भी एक पॉइंट और दूं, credible deterrence होना चाहिए हमारे पास।
yes,
I'm not talking about nuclear deterrence, strategic deterrence, credible
no.
deterrence along the LAC in terms of special operation forces.
Yes, we don't need every time nuclear forces and long range weapon systems. You need people to people. Yeah, I mean, sir, I'll give you one small thing. Most of the infrastructure in Tibet is made on permafrost. आप वो permafrost को kerosene oil के साथ आप मिटा सकते हो complete. आप एक रेलवे ट्रैक के ऊपर दो जरिकन केरोसिन डाल दीजिए और उसको जला दीजिए, वो वहां कोलैप्स हो जाएगा. So that's our thinking has to be different. They're very vulnerable. The whole place is vulnerable. Only thing is we have to start thinking differently. एक point sir मैं add करना चाहता हूँ in this denying space in the neighborhood. It's a little obtuse but मैं लाना चाहता हूँ. वो ये है drugs and international movements. क्योंकि आजकल जो अफगानिस्तान में हो रहा है, अफगानिस्तान में तो ये गवर्नमेंट ने पूरा ड्रग बंद कर दिया और उसके तहत इन द ईस्ट drug trade will go up. It is going to happen. So I think this is also important when you want to deny space in the neighborhood. These international movements, smuggling hua, piracy hua, drug hua, not narcotic, human trafficking hua. We have to look at these things also to deny space, because we keep hearing, right? So I think all this is important, right? Now it's time that we switch to the third D. And the third D, connected, now that we have spoken of our neighborhood, right? We need to look at the other issues. And the other issues are diplomacy. Diplomacy to balance China out. So we'll talk of domination of the maritime space in the end. So how from the neighborhood we have to go out and see how do we make our diplomacy work. So your thoughts on diplomacy?
कैसा है if you look at the world disorder मैं बोलूँगा order तो है ही नहीं अभी world disorder है तो उसमें China as the I think it will be wrong to say China emerging power. I think it is emerged power.
Yeah.
We have to grant अपने adversary का भी कमजोर मत समझिए आप. Give him 2 points plus, 3 points plus of what you assess him to be because you may be wrong in assessment.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
मैं ये कहूँगा कि China as emerged power is going to challenge the US and it is doing so. देखिए China as a let's not deny the fact. China is 5 times our same national power. तो उसको हमने कैसे हाँ जी ये मैट्रिक्स आपका we talked about it. तो we have to have a diplomacy to bind to balance with countries where we have congress of interest, where convergence of interest to counter China as in a multilateral forum without having an impact on our strategic autonomy. It's a very difficult one. But fortunately, I think our foreign policy has really come of age 75 years ke baad. We are doing, it's all plus I'm talking about. We have managed Quad also well. We are part of BRICS, we are part of RIC, we are part of IPSA, and we are part of a number of multilateral forums. But having said that, we are not part of the, we talk of a rule-based global order, right? We are part of the global order, but we're not part of the rule-making global order. India as a nation should be sitting on the high table in all forums. When I talk about diplomacy, we should be looking at a permanent seat in the UN Security Council. We should be looking at the apex level in all the elite clubs like WTO, IMF, WHO, whatever you have. These are things where we have to have a say. After all, we are the largest population, we are the largest democracy. We are a growing nation. We will be the third largest economy in a few years' time, a couple of years' time. In PPP terms, we are already third largest economy. So geoeconomics will dictate everything. Geoeconomics also dictate your securities, your geostrategy, where you stand, your diplomacy. Right? So we have to understand our strengths and we have to leverage our strengths in the diplomatic field, which we are doing. We come of age. But China को counter करने के लिए, I think it is important that I would not, let me use the right word. We keep Taiwan on our right side. More importantly, Taiwan should know that we are there for them. South Korea, Japan, Australia, right? And we have shown this in the Russia-Ukraine war that we can balance it. We can balance our interests very well. So, diplomacy, I think, is very important. We'll have to reach out to nations, and it is linked to when we say deny space. There are linkages between the two, and we covered that in
yes, sir. There's no doubt. There's no doubt only. Let me again reiterate and say how we have been able to bind to balance and diplomatically. You see, I'll go back to this power matrix because that power matrix, which when we did, has a lot of value. Your equation with Russia puts, a pressure on China to pull it back. हालांकि आज के दिन because of Russia's own weak position, that's not so much. But your equation with USA puts a lot of pressure on China. And this has been acknowledged by China itself. In fact, China, there are a lot of articles coming out of China which talk about the Indo-US relationship and which is coming. यहाँ तक 2 दिन पहले I read one article, sir, which says India has global ambitions and it is emerging as a global superpower, right? And this Indo-US equation will propel it there. And that it is in China's interest to recognize this fact and come to terms with India. So actually, internally also that effect has started having. If we didn't have this ability to do diplomacy deftly, we won't. That kind of comments won't come from there. So we are doing something. And in the past 2 years, the way we've handled the Ukraine and Russia war and our position there, though initially a lot of people expected too much out of it, I think we've done a lot. Second, our position in the Shanghai Corporation of Organization and BRICS, how we have managed that, and which is very important. The third is, of course, how we are handling G20. In fact, I would like to highlight ये G20 के माध्यम से we also conveyed to China and Pakistan that Kashmir is inalienable to us when we had that G20 meet there. And plus to China, we said we held one meet in Arunachal, अगर आपको याद है तो. And that also conveyed a lot to them. So we are doing this diplomacy where we have to, and this year I think we have done exceedingly well in this. And plus, we've had a very clear understanding in many issues, especially related to the vaccines. Because now people have realized that without India, probably the whole thing couldn't have been eradicated the way it has been eradicated. And एक और चीज जो उभर के आ रहा है सर कि that India is being seen by the global South as someone who matters to them. That's important क्योंकि this feeling I started getting off late, and in fact that is why tomorrow I'm going to speak with Ambassador Gurjit Singh on Africa and India's footprint there and how we have to counter China, something which we have always had. The enormous soft power which we've had, we have to get to the fore. Our cultural soft power which we've had, हम अक्सर भूल जाते हैं कि our father of our nation Mahatma Gandhi learned everything in South Africa. और वहां से हाँ लेके आए. So I think these are things which we have to think. Is there anything in diplomacy, sir? Should we, and then we can switch to?
Can I give you a small?
Yeah,
I know
please, please.
I don't know you. I know that you don't.
Time की problem, time की
Instead
कोई
of
पाबंदी नहीं है, जितना मर्जी बात कर सकते
instead of countering China in the diplomatic field, we should propagate India as a as a leader.
Yes.
India as a facilitator, India as a partner, growing partner. See, when you have to counter China, फिर उसके connotations थोड़े अलग हो जाते हैं. That is why when we said invest in the people, invest in the people, invest in the people. So they should see India as a partner in their growth, partner in the economic development, partner in their well-being. Because you cannot counter China in finances. There's no question.
No, out of questions.
He's sitting on surplus monies. He's sitting on surplus. He's got the machinery to develop it. He's a manufacturing. China is the manufacturing, hub of the world.
Yeah, it's still
out there. Well,
and it will remain so for some time.
It remains some till but what it is not doing is people. It's not people friendly. तो पाकिस्तान में इसको people friendly नहीं है, बाकी तो छोड़ दीजिए आप.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, sir.
My point is that we should be seen as a nation which reaches out in equitable growth of the two nations together and well-being of the people together.
I think so.
It's just a question of words.
No, not only that, sir. I think the major thing which we have is we have trust of people all over.
Correct.
Including USA. They have trust of India, and that is a big weapon which we often underutilize. Right.
Every sixth American is being treated by Indian doctor.
Yes, which we don't realize. These things we don't even propagate. Okay. Now, so with this as a background, let's get into the seas. What do you do to dominate this huge maritime area which we call the Indian Ocean region, and in fact beyond? I will not talk of beyond. We'll first talk of the Indian Ocean region.
Okay. चाइना की जो strategic vulnerabilities हैं और strategic concerns हैं वो Indian Ocean region में. 80% of his oil passes from here. And India has a geographical advantage with a location advantage. And that is where I think we can put pressure on China and raise the, and the threat in being. I'm not saying that we will do it. The threat in being has to be there. कि अगर तुम वहां कुछ करोगे तो हम यहाँ कुछ कर सकते हैं. That signal, strategic signaling, and the threat in being has to go to China. The eight choke points have to be dominated by us. So we have to invest in the Navy. No, I said so at the cost of repetition. The armed forces of the nation are not meant to fight wars. Sorry,
They meant
हम
to
लड़ाई
defend the
नहीं
nation.
है. We're here to maintain peace, ensure stability, peace and stability and economic development. That come only for peace. And peace, we have to, let me use the right word. We have to purchase peace through investments. We have to invest in peace, invest in the armed forces, and this has to come from their national, competing pride at national level. We understand that. But if we do not invest, and maritime will need massive investments,
Yes, there's no doubt on that.
and we
There's
have
just
to
no doubt on that.
we'll have to invest in submarine fleet. We'll have to invest in aerial, in the maritime aviation. We'll have to invest in ISR. We'll invest in drones, and more importantly, we have to develop the Andaman Nicobar Group of Islands as of as our extended fortress there. Okay.
Yes.
For a starter, let us have a training ship, as we call the establishment ship, for joint training. So at any one time in the Andaman Nicobar Islands, you have joint training. We do joint training with 40 plus countries actually. We
Yes.
already do. ठीक है. तो वहां पर आप लगातार मल्टीनेशनल एक्सरसाइज करते रहिए वहां पर. And people are interested because their interests are also there. Right? So we'll have to make sure that the threat in being at the choke points, eight of them, I think eight choke points, if I'm right, if I'm
Yes.
wrong.
Yeah, well, लिखा है,
हाँ, eight choke points हमने mark कर रखे हैं. And I'm not saying you can choke them, but it is a
we don't need to, sir. We don't need
freedom
to.
of navigation or whatever we call it for ops. But the threat in being has to be there that we have the capability and the ability to do it. If you pressurize to do it, that is a deterrence. That is a threat in being. And for that, we need investments into a maritime domain in subsurface, in air, and on the seas.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, sir. Unless we improve our maritime capabilities, maritime capabilities is not only military capabilities or civilian capabilities also. We will not, the fourth D will get left out. The next point is what is the view from the other side? When the view from the other side, China feels that look, entering Indian Ocean is difficult because the Andaman Nicobar, I have read in many of their writings, they call it the Iron Curtain. They are very scared of coming here. ये बोल तो देते हैं हमारे पास 3 एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर होंगे, हमारे पास 6 एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर होंगे, ये वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह, बट दे डोंट हैव स्पेस टू डिप्लॉय द नेवी हियर. उनके पास बेस नहीं है. So part of our development, I will put it one part of denial of maritime, area or domination of the maritime area is to develop your own capabilities. The other part of it is to deny them bases to be developed. Like we've done already in Maldives, because they had almost there. They were almost developing a base in Hambantota, which we have, Rad Karod, and they're trying to develop a base in Africa, which we need, East African coast, which we need to somehow stymie. And of course, Gwadar is something which we can't stop. But Gwadar will not develop into effective base because Pakistan will do internally जो भी करेगा वो stop अपने आप हो जाएगा. So despite there are two facets to domination of the maritime space. One is you dominate it physically with your surface, subsurface, and uh, sky-based, aerial-based power. That's one. You develop your islands. That's the proactive part, and then you deny space to others. Right. With this, I want to focus one point which you actually mentioned, but we have not discussed, which I want you to discuss, and which you actually, I think it's a very important point of military diplomacy. We have not in diplomacy, we forgot this point about military diplomacy. When you said 40 countries train with us, and this training is carried out at various levels. It's carried out at force to force levels. It's carried out at individual levels. It is carried out at sub arm levels. Like the artillery comes and some artillery comes and fires with you. Some tanks come and fire in Jhansi Babina. Then people go for the CIJW school there for jungle warfare. People go and learn high altitude war from this is all part of military diplomacy and all that. So could you dilate on this, sir?
I think defense diplomacy or military diplomacy, as you call it, is integral to our diplomacy, and it has to go hand in hand. And as long years ago or a few years ago, someone put it, there's 60% deployment defense diplomacy, right? Because that is where you develop confidence, you develop equations, and you develop strategies. Okay, interoperability, and you have confidence in each other. But there are scenes of उनके साथ हम होली खेलते हैं जैसे वो आते हैं उनके साथ दिवाली खेलते हैं हम चाहते हैं cultural. It is not only linked to this thing. Even China के साथ hand in hand, I we do hand in hand. अब मानेंगे मतलब it was a great learning for them, great learning for us.
Yeah, there's no doubt, sir.
हाँ, मतलब hand in hand करते थे ना पहले चाइना के साथ हम.
Yeah.
It was a massive exercise. ठीक है, तो सीखने को मिलता था, कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्ड होता था. जो हमारे जो बॉर्डर पर्सनल मीटिंग पॉइंट्स है वहां पर वॉलीबॉल खेला करते थे. So this is all happening. So it is not only with other countries. So it is with China also we are doing it. So my point is we should strengthen that, and more people want to come and train with the defense in Indian defense forces because of experience they want to gain from us, like you rightly said. Right. So defense diplomacy is a integral part of diplomacy, and that is where our structures have to be very robust. And as a structure, international structure, very robust.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we don't seem to be doing something just for the sake of doing it. We have to learn and we have to teach both.
Yes, I agree with you completely, sir.
And we have to understand that we have 67% of our military hardware is ex-Soviet. Let's not deny that. We have to balance out with the nations.
I agree with you completely. So this is a fifth point virtually which I brought in. I wouldn't say fifth point, part of diplomacy itself, which we had missed out. I thought we should bring it back in. Right. Iske saath, sir, I think we've covered the entire gamut of all 4 Ds, how to counter China. We'll take on a few questions. I see a few.
You have it very well.
Oh, sir. No, not at all, sir. So I think there are a few interesting questions, right, which I would like you to think. This question is in 2 parts, and he says, Jai Hind, Generals Shankar and Bhatia, awesome discussion. I have 2 questions. Why does India punch way below our weight? Why are we so tentative and unsure in our actions? Right. His next question is connected. He says, with the 5th largest economy in the world and soon to be number 3, why is our defense budget 2% of our GDP? The US is at 3.6, Greece also is at 2.4, and UK at 2.1. I think these 2 questions are very searching questions. Should I put the first question back so that we can answer that and then get to this?
I don't think we are now punching below our weight. We were earlier.
Not now.
I don't think anymore. We are quite aggressive now. We have assimilated a lot of things, and we are punching where required, and we are punching above weight where required. If you look at, especially in the diplomatic field, in the economic field, if you look at the FDS coming in the economic field, if you look at national initiatives like Startup India, Make in India, they're slow. Yes, हमारे laws इतने सारे हैं. I'll give you an example. In China, the manufacturing sector, you can't beat it. It is something known as 996. The man works from 9 to 9, 9 in the morning to 9 at night, 6 days a week. And the other shift is 9 at night to 9 in the morning, 6 days a week.
We can't have that.
That is 996. And in his lunch break, if he opens the mobile, he's fined. Right? I mean, do we want a people like that? I don't know. हमारे laws, labor laws, legal laws, ये law, वो law, and China's got plug and play. So when we say punching below our weight, in some extent, yes, I agree totally. But then we are a democratic country. We have so many other things to take care of. But in the international arena now I feel in the diplomatic, military, and economic field, I think we are punching at our weight.
Yeah,
Yes,
at
I
our
agree.
weight.
We should be a UN Security Council. We should be.
No, but sir, I mean, I go with you completely. If you see in the past, say just about 1 year, 1.5, 2 years, I think we have started punching well above our weight. I wouldn't say well above our weight. I think we have started punching at our weight, and the world has started taking notice of ourselves. Us. So the second question, which he said, the fifth largest economy in the world and soon to be, why is our defense budget 2% of our GDP? The US is at 3.6%, and Greece, Chota Greece, is also at 2.4%, and UK is at 2.1%. I think he's got a very valid point. I think we should.
I think you have hit the nail on the head. That is,
Yeah,
that's what we were discussing. Purchase, you have to purchase peace
peace.
through investment. And but no, we have a large population to take care of. We have competing priorities: the health sector, our infrastructure sector, our education sector. We have to, our poverty line. Uh, we can say we are very good with it, but there are problems. There's unemployment. There's poverty. They have to be taken care of. We have to generate employment, economic development. If we are to develop and economically grow, the military will grow. Obviously, every nation has to invest in the military, has to economically sound. It is again hen situation. If you don't have peace and stability, you can't have economic growth. And if you don't have economic development, economic growth, you can't have peace and stability because you can't invest in armed forces. But you are 100% right that we have to 2% of GDP is less. I think we need more monies, and especially given our security, our security is threat based. It is very good to borrow from the Americans. They write very well because English is उनकी mother tongue है. सीधी बात है. ठीक है, उनकी मदर टंग अच्छी इंग्लिश लिखते हैं, हम उसे बोरो कर लेते हैं. नहीं, हमारी थ्रेड बेस्ड वो कैपेबिलिटी डेवलपमेंट, कैपेबिलिटी बेस्ड फोर्स स्ट्रक्चर वगैरह ये उनके लिए है. उनको कैपेबिलिटी, हमको थ्रेड बेस्ड हमारी वी सी थ्रेट्स, वी नो द इमीडिएट थ्रेट, वी नो द नियर टर्म थ्रेट, वी नो द मिड टर्म थ्रेट, वी नो द लॉन्ग टर्म थ्रेट. हमें क्या प्रॉब्लम है उसमें? एंड वी हैव टू मिटिगेट दोस थ्रेट्स. हाउ टू मीट एंड मिटिगेट दोस थ्रेट इज आवर चैलेंज, एंड फॉर दैट वी नीड मनीज, एंड वी कैन नॉट वेट. See, if you are to a world power, you have to a military power. If you are to a world power, you have to a technological power. If you are to a world power, you have economic power. And they go hand in hand. Your military, your technology, everything, your defense diplomacy can only be as strong as your military is, or your economy is, or your technology is. So that is the three powers we need. I hope
Yes,
I'm
yes,
going
there's no doubt.
to I agree with it totally. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. Thank you, BVR, for this super sticker, and thanks, Jyotish, also. Right. Okay. The next question I have is, okay, let's ask this. China has successfully established a market for its military hardware in Africa, thereby gaining a diplomatic and strategic advantage in the region. Let me highlight this a little more, expand. China has a lot of its arms export market is increasing, and it is countering a lot of what Russia used to export, and that's another form of diplomacy and getting power and getting into that area. So this issue is, I think we need to do something about it. I mean, that's the fundamental issue message in this question. So if you could address this and talk about it a little.
Yeah, there's no doubt. China is it was a net importer. It was the biggest importer actually. Till about 2000, it was the biggest arms importer. but then they developed their own weaponry system, whether it's by reverse engineering, by design, or whatever you call it. But today it is an exporter. It is the third largest exporter. It exports, I think, 6% of or so something. My last figures were 6%. It may have changed this year, but last year 6% of all military exports are from China. And where does China export? It exports in our neighborhood. If you look at our neighborhood, Myanmar, you look at Bangladesh, uh, Pakistan, the military hardware mainly from China, and similarly for Africa. So it is exporting. I mean, that's what China is. It's industry. It's grown. Uh, we'll have to live with that. Now,
And not only that, sir, we have to also start increasing our own exports so that
yeah,
we,
we are doing that. Our exports are. There's the second point.
yeah,
Our
we are,
exports are increasing. We have, I think, I don't know the figures. I don't have the figures offhand, but our exports are increasing. But we've got to do much more than that. Large
yeah, we
country,
have to do. And we've
much, much.
been, constrained by the fact that we didn't have a export policy till very recently. It's only in the past 2, 3 years that we started looking at defense exports as a way of increasing your economy, as also gaining influence abroad and denying influence. So it will happen.
Let me take a step further. This is a major concern for us. Okay, हमारे जो दो कॉरिडोर आने थे and you are in it, मतलब we're taking so much of time over it.
Yeah,
You know,
it's just not started functioning.
not starting. The control of the DPSUs and the ordnance factories continue. We have to get the private sector in it. We have to get the R&D. We want to invest in R&D. देखिए आप हमारी कमजोरियां हैं. We should understand that. We should talk about it. Why can't we make a rifle? Why do our Jawan have to fire an Insas rifle which he has got no faith in? It's a piece of metal. Sorry. Let people feel bad about it. It's a piece of metal. No Jawan has got a faith in an Insas. He'd rather take an AK and go, not an Insas. So why can't we give a weapon to his liking? Well, what's so great about a rifle? We do high all our development is strategic projects, high visibility projects जहाँ पर बहुत शाबाशी मिलती है. भाई 80% और जो हमारे military hardware है low to medium technologies. We're going to develop our own guns, which we are doing now. Fortunately, guns are there. We own drones. वो engines आ रहे हैं वहाँ से. We go and order 1,000 aircraft, 500 by Indigo, 500 by Air India. So we have to look at words, please. You're right.
Right. So with this, there are not many more questions of value. We'll close the thing, and we also it will become rather late otherwise. I'd like to thank all the members who have participated. I can't take the questions because there are really not many questions of thing concerned with this topic. Some questions of general interest, I'll take it on during the open hour, every week which I have. I must thank you, sir, for this wonderful expose and the wonderful discussion and the way you brought these 4Ds into focus and what we need to do. You actually crystallized out and given a path on each of these what we have to do in India to counter China. And this is not a, like you rightly said, it's not an exercise which starts today and it ends tomorrow. It's going to be ongoing and ongoing and ongoing till such time we equate and we normalize our relations with China, and that is a long time away. So your final words, and then we'll close the show and say Jai Hind.
No, thank you. Very interesting. I think we covered a lot of ground and some plain speaking, uh, very pragmatic sort of forward. I wish you all the very best. We are there. Well, we just
Yeah,
there.
we're there. We're there, and I'd like to thank all those who have come up. I'm sorry I could take your questions, but definitely some other day I've taken the most important questions which are this thing. Thanks a lot. Good evening and Jai Hind, and thank you, sir, and Jai Hind to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Shankar. Thank you, the audience. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.